Order. Can you call roll, please?
Lori Knudski.
Here.
Linda Grassi.
Here.
Scott Fishel.
Here.
Tom Heck.
Here.
John Flowers.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. I'd like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Board of Education held in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public comment during the meeting in the public participation section on the agenda. Make a motion to approve the minutes for February 26, 2023 board minutes, February 2nd, 2023 work session, February 9th, 2023 special meeting, and February 13th, 2023 special meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Placco, can you call the roll?
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Jennifer Hard.
Aye.
Lori Knudski.
Aye. Motion carried. That brings us to special reports.
We got two today, Mrs. Kuniski. We're going to start with two students from Lamouth Middle School we would like to recognize. I am going to turn it over to Mr. Lewis, our interim principal at Lamouth. And we have two students, Charlie and Jason, who will come up here as they're going to be recognized for their accomplishment through the Ohio Middle School Level Association.
I apologize if I turned my back on. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about two of our students. The OMLA is the Ohio Middle School Level Association. It's the professional organization for administrators and teachers of middle schools and junior highs. About a month ago, they sent out a call for an annual nomination for students based off of character, scholarship, service, and leadership. And the idea is teachers nominate students, and then they go through a vetting process, and students are selected. I have two young men that were selected for the Northeast region. This is the funniest things I've ever experienced. I sent the email out to the staff to nominate them. I thought I was going to referee a fight between two of my teachers that were arguing over who got to nominate one of them. And the other one was actually nominated by a staff member that wasn't a teacher and that upset all the teachers. So it's kind of a funny situation. But we have two young men that can be recognized. We have a catered breakfast in Independence, Ohio, sponsored by the OMLA. Where they will be recognized. They'll be keynote speakers, and it'll be a really nice event. But before introducing them, I thought I would read some of the narrative that the teachers wrote about them. So first up, and I'll bring him up here, would be Charlie Shar, sixth grader at Lamouth. Charlie Shar should be recognized as an outstanding student. Not only does Charlie excel in academics, being a 4.0 honor student, he leads his fellow classmates. For example, we started a recycling program in Lamouth this year, as well as a pull tab collection with a goal of a 1,000-pound collection for the Ronald McDonald House. Charlie's passion for this project has been the driving force behind its success. He took the initiative to contact the Ronald McDonald House to gather information in which he used to create a presentation that was shared with the students. He has been in charge of the creation and implementation of the project for the entire school year. Charlie's character is an inspiration to both classmates and the staff at Lamouth. He is one of the most kind, caring, and compassionate students that has walked the halls of Lamouth School. So I want to present Charlie Shar to you.
So a certificate of recognition.
Go in the middle here.
Congratulations.
My big melon head's going to be in the way. That's why I was trying to get you to turn around. There we go.
We'll do both together.
Okay, excellent. As I said earlier, he will be recognized in a breakfast as well, I'm sure, with some other awards, but that's awesome. He's the one that the teachers are going to fight over. So, next we have Jason Lamb. Jason is the kind of person who is genuine in everything he does. He does not have a bad bone in his body and has a heart of gold. Jason will go out of his way to make sure someone is okay or to help them. He surrounds himself with positive people who lift him up just as much as he lifts them up. Other than his sweet, caring disposition, he also has an amazing work ethic. Jason makes sure he is following along and will stay on task to get his work done. He asks questions when he struggles and is always striving to do better or to take the extra time to think about what he is really doing. Every time you bring up the name Jason Lamb around teachers, students, or staff, the comments about him are so remarkable. People want to be around him because he is such an outstanding young man. We have no doubt in our minds that he will go far in this life and he will be one to make a huge impact on this world.
Congratulations.
Good job, boys.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
We also have Mrs. Halsey here, who's our advisor for our exchange program, and she would like to introduce 5 exchange students that we have this year.
Hi, how are you? It has been a pleasure to host these students this year. They've really done a tremendous job at kind of assimilating and really involving themselves in the Riverside community and getting involved in activities, academics. So on the end there, we have Johannes, he's from Norway. Irene from Spain. Felix from Germany. Nina from Brazil. And Ludovico from Italy. And I think we're beginning the presentations with Ludovico. No.
Swing over here.
Hi everyone, my name is Ludovico Spada. I'm the exchange student from Italy. And Italy is a European country. It's probably the easiest one to locate. It's the one that looks like a boot. We're divided in different regions, which, if you want to put it like that, they're like smaller version of states. And this one right here is the one I lived in, which is Lombardy. Italy is known for mostly its food. Many will argue that Italy is the best food in the world. I agree. And here we have a traditional pizza, which is what a pizza should look like. A Roman carbonara and a risotto from Milan, which is where I grew up. For the art, we have many different painters and sculptors from history. They're really important. Here we have the here we have the Mona Lisa, the creation of Adam, and I don't remember the English name for this, but it's fun. And we have the architecture. We have obviously beautiful architecture. We have, for example, the Tower of Pisa, which is leaning for some reasons. We have the Ark of Peace, and we have the Colosseum from Rome, which I'm sure you've all seen. We have many differences. First off, we have the flag is different. The currency is different. We use the European currency, which is the euro, while you use the dollar. And as you can see, they're really different. The language is also different. We speak Italian, which is one of the Romantic languages from the world. And the school system is also really different. Anything you can think about school, regarding school, is completely different from here to Italy. And there's many more differences, like for example, how servers get paid at restaurants. We don't pay servers because that's not how they get paid. They get a regular salary, like everybody. And this is some of the pictures with, these are my classmates from Italy. I miss them a lot. This is me in vacation with my little brother and my dad, and this is me right here. This is me still with some of the friends in Italy. This is my family, and as you can see, they really support the USA. We got the flag here, we got the states, everything you can think about. Grazie per l'attenzione, thank you for your attention. Any questions?
I always have questions for the foreign exchange students. So what was your biggest surprise when you got here? You obviously had conceptions of America. You're here. What was the biggest surprise for you?
The biggest surprise probably was how similar it was to what I expected. Because everything we learned from about America is probably from TV shows, like Disney Channel or something like that. And seeing the houses and the schools, seeing how actually it is the truth, even if it's a TV show which is not the truth, it's very surprising.
Yeah. Cool. And if I may, what is so you're here for a year, and then what is your next step?
The next step for me is going back to Italy, starting there for a year, and then coming back here. To permanent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to America.
One more question. So how embarrassing are our pies compared to your pies?
Your pies? I'm not a pies fan, and my...
No, I mean the pizza.
Oh,
Pizza pies.
Oh, pizza pies. Okay. Yeah,
Information
they're really nice. I don't think...
Just so everyone knows, he said ours is really embarrassing.
Yeah, I don't think I've found one that I say, oh,
Not even close. Huh?
yeah.
So do you have a favorite? I mean, I know it's not the same, but do you have a local restaurant that you think is better than the rest?
For the looking, I would say Pastina is really what looks like it, but it's not. The looks are there. It tastes I would say, I don't know which places I've been to.
Okay, so have you been to Little Italy?
No, I still have to be there.
Yeah.
My host parents are going to take me. I don't know.
How long have you been studying English? Because you speak very well.
Oh, since like first grade, but I haven't been like fluent since until like 10th grade or 9th. Yeah. To make an example, we have in middle school we have grades that go from 10 to 4, and 4 is the worst one. And in an English test, I got 3. This is not a joke. That's how bad.
Who's next? Congratulations.
Thank you.
My parents were born in Sicily and Rome.
Hi, I'm Mia. I'm from Brazil. The only one that's not European is here. Capital of Brazil is called Brasilia. Many people think it's Rio, but it's not. We have over 2 million people there. The largest country in South America and Latin America. It's the 5th largest country in the world, and the 7th most populous. Our currency is called reais. Because we're in the southern hemisphere, like our seasons are switched. So while you guys are having summer, we are having winter. And while you guys are having fall, we're having spring. And so, it's a really tropical country, so it doesn't snow there at all. The average weather is like between 70 Fahrenheit, like 70 degrees Fahrenheit and 86 throughout the entire year. It's pretty warm. You can still go to the beach in the winter. Because our seasons are switched, our school year works in a different way as well, from February to November. And the middle school was 7th grade to 9th grade, so 9th grade isn't considered part of high school there, but 10th grade is high school. That's my school. Curiosity that some people always ask, like drinking age and like driving age, and also voting is the one that people get most surprised by, because we are kind of like, we kind of have to vote at 18. Like you can get to like vote at nothing, as we call it, but you have to vote. And also at 16 you can choose to like go and vote if you want to like participate in your political decisions in the country, which is really nice. These are like some of the speeches we have there. This describes the Redeemer. It's one of the 7 wonders in the world. The Amazon rainforest covers most part of the north of the country and some of the countries around us. It's the biggest rainforest in the world. Soccer, it's one of the biggest sport in the country. We have a lot of pride on it because we are one of the most successful national teams in the world. That's something really, really important to us. Carnival is one of the biggest holidays. They're having it right now. Like it's a week of a holiday that's pretty much you just go partying and dance samba. That is one of the national dances that we have, and it's really special to us. And yeah, it's just something that everyone celebrates. It's part of the Catholic holiday, but everyone celebrates. You don't need to be Catholic to. And some of the foods that we have, Brazil is a really big country, so we have really traditional foods from every part of the country. That is called pão de queijo. It's like cheese balls, and those are stuff that we eat like pretty much every day. Every lunch you have rice and beans and meat, and yeah, if you don't want anything special, that's what you have. That's soda that we have like with Brazilian fruit, and the acai balls that are really famous here. The acai fruits are from South America, but mostly from Brazil. So, and that is brigadeiro. It's like chocolate fudge. That's the best way to describe it. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Take it away.
All right. So you've come here. What have you liked best about America?
I really like how the sports works at school. Like you guys take it like way more serious than we do in Brazil. So it's really fun to see how everyone is so involved in the sports in the schools.
Have you taken up a sport?
I am trying for lacrosse, but I'm kind of nervous because I've never tried it.
So my daughter graduated from Riverside in 2018, and she was on lacrosse, so you can follow in her footsteps.
Okay.
What is next for you?
I'm going back to Brazil, and I will be middle of my senior year there and graduating in November this year. And for college, I might come back. I'm trying to let my options open for now.
So I did have one other question. You've got Carnival going now, and you said your school year starts from February to November.
Yeah.
Is school off during the Carnival?
Well, these students like to say that. It really starts after Carnival, but no, we start in the beginning of the month.
Okay. What would you like to study?
I have no idea yet. There's too many options, and I don't know. Maybe business school. That's something that I'm interested in. But
You speak Portuguese, right? That's
Yeah.
the official language of Brazil. How long have you been studying English?
Since I'm five or six. I think 6, yeah.
Good to hear you command it as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Felix from Germany and this is our flag.
Down.
This is Germany, and you see the different colors. This is like, we consider it not really a state, but it's kind of like a state. We have very small ones like Berlin, which is also a capital, and we have really big ones like Bayern. This is like our biggest. Actually, so in Germany they're living around 86 million people, and we also use euros instead of dollars, which is like different from here. We also have a lot of like different like types. So we have out there, we have the water, you know, and we have everywhere like lakes and rivers, and down and more like in the north region, we have mountains where you can ski very good on. This is our government. It's Olaf Scholz. He's a councillor. We don't have like a president. We have 6 big parties. They go like all over the place, and we're democratic. And a big difference between America and Germany is like the school. It's like a huge difference. So every school in Germany starts at 8 a.m. There's no other time. Like it ends around 4 p.m. In whole Europe, we use military time. We don't use like AM or PM. We don't have really lunch. We have more like 20-minute breaks after every 2 hours. And we go outside and bring our own lunch, and we eat outside, even if it's cold. So, and the school is like harder than here, which makes it better for me when I'm here. We don't really have a school spirit. We just go to school to get like tortured and like the classic school stuff. And yeah, how I said, no lunch, no cafeteria. And we go past our train because we can't get our driver license till we're 18. So we have to use it, but it's pretty good. That was me for my one graduation party. Because in Germany, you have like different school forms. We have main school are from 1st grade to 4th grade, then from 5th grade to 10th grade, and then from 11th grade to 13th grade. So, but you can also choose instantly to go from 5th grade to 13th grade. It's kind of complicated, but that was me on my graduation party. That was me with my friends on the way back from like a trip, and we were gone for a week with my class before we were like graduated. How do you get somewhere? So driving in Germany is 18, the driving age, so we have to use public transportation, which is pretty good. Like we can get everywhere, we can get even into other countries with it. And students get tickets for lower prices, which is a good thing. And we also have some highways, we call them autobahn, with no speed limits, so you can drive as fast as you want.
So they're parking lot.
And in my free time, I spend most of my free time like hanging with friends, I party on weekend, and I'm a co-leader in a kids group, and I love to bake. So this is a kids group that I help to lead, and it's fun. We go like out and in the nature and teach kids what to do there. Those are some of my friends in the bus. I go skiing almost like every winter with my family in a big group, and this is like still Germany, and it looks like amazing. That's more in the north, and this is my dad and me. This is my ski group. We always go skiing together. My family, I have parents, an older sister, 2 grandmas, an uncle and aunt, and a cousin, and more relatives, but like I'm not really in contact with them. That was my grandma, her 70th birthday. We were like for wine tasting out. It was a lot of fun for like the whole weekend, so there was a lot of wine juice. And that was my other grandma on her 80th birthday. I baked this cake, and I'm pretty proud of it.
Wow, you should be. Absolutely.
And there was a car ride with my other grandma, and it's actually not Santa Claus. But it was a pretty fun. And there was the traditional, like what you wear in Germany. That's me, and that's my older sister. That's a Dirndl, and that's a Lederhose. And it's like traditional on Oktoberfest. You probably saw it already. I have 2 dogs. There are a lot of pictures, but this presentation was made for like 15 minutes, so I'm just going to skip through them. So my dog is 2 years old, and his name is Harry, and my grandma's dog is 14, and his name is Bobby. But like I was like every day at my grandma's house, so it's like like my dog. Yeah, I have like a lot of pictures. Like really a lot. And that's my sister when she was little, and me and Bobby. Food. So Germany is known for its diversity in bread because we have over 300 different types of bread and 1,200 different types of small pastries, which is like really amazing because you can just go to a bakery and be like, can I have a bread? And they'll be like, which one? You'd be like, learning this like vocabulary. So we have also different types of sausages, bratwurst and currywurst. And you're gonna see pictures of it, and you're gonna see them mostly like at a soccer game because soccer is like the sport that is pretty big in Germany. A common dish is also like just bread with butter and ham or cheese on it. Some people in the school told me it's dry. I like it. And also we had like there was like a war more in the Turkey region and stuff, and Germany was one of the only countries who let it in, like all the immigrants. So our food culture is like influenced by it, and it's just amazing. So this one is the bread, like this one currywurst with like fries and mayonnaise, and this one is bratwurst. You know, it's like more like a snack. This one is döner. This is one of the Turkey dishes. They're like everywhere and they're so amazing. That's like my favorite dish. And I'm pretty happy when I come back to get this. I already asked my mom if we can get it on the way back. Alcohol and drugs. So the drinking age in Germany is 14 with permission from your parents. And with 16 you can buy some kinds of alcohol. It's like one of the softer ones like beer, wine, and sparkling wine. And with 18 you're officially an adult. That means you can buy everything. You can go to bars and stuff. So you can already start bar hopping at 16, which is kind of early. So you can like call your mom and be like, hey, can you pick me up from this bar because I can't drive, but I'm already drunk. And we're trying to legalize weed right now, more like medicine, like for medical purposes and stuff. Yeah, the driving age is 18. Yeah, and those are just 2 pictures from me on the party. Any more questions?
Well, if you have a question, please, I think we'll mix it up.
We'll mix it up. What do you think of ice wine?
It's okay, it's a little overrated, but it's not bad. My grandma likes it.
Your grandma likes it because it's really sweet.
Yeah, but other grandma only drinks like dry wine. Every time I come to her house and like try it, I'd be like my whole just face is really it's so dry.
So you don't like dry wine?
Not really if it's too dry, you know.
So what's your favorite food here?
Good question. Maybe chicken wings, asparagus. Traditional, but it's good. I like it.
So back in the late 80s, I was able to travel to Germany. And I was in France, I was in Belgium, and Luxembourg, and Switzerland. But I got to Germany, and it really felt like America to me. So did you, when you transitioned, I mean, obviously there's differences, the food and what have you. How home does America feel to you?
It feels okay, but the people are even nicer here. But because in Germany you don't really like say hello if you see somebody or like wink or smile at them. You just mind your own business. Even in a restaurant, like we don't really tip waiter, so they don't try to be nice. So they just like do anything and just give your money and they go. So and like you have to call them to the table, so they don't come from their own way when I call them. But it's something in common, yes. But like school and people are different here.
What city are you from?
Essen, it's near Cologne.
I was in Cologne.
Mm-hmm. Cologne is one of the known cities here. That's how I was saying.
Yeah, that was before the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
And so it was in Bonn, which was then the capital of West Germany, and spent time in Cologne and saw the cathedral, and then also saw there was a Roman mosaic.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know which one you mean.
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty interesting. I like it. I was there a lot of times.
What would you like to do next year?
So I still have like 3 or 2 more years left, in school in Germany. So I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do. I just take my time and just work just finish school and see what happens.
How long have you been studying?
Since 2nd grade, I was around 7, 8. I'm 7, 8. I'm now 16. I don't really calculate that now. I haven't seen it much. I'm in school, but no, thank you. Anyone else?
One more question. Oh, question up there.
I know at one point in time, Germany had a requirement, or it was a semi-requirement, that once you graduated, you had to serve in the military for a year.
Mhm.
Is that still the case in Germany?
No, it's not anymore. So my dad still had to do it, but it's not really a case anymore. It's like you could choose like to go a year in the military, or go a little bit over a year. I think like 2 years into like helping older people and stuff. So you can like choose between two things. So my dad just did it. I don't have to do it anymore, which is a good thing.
Question. You said you can jump in school, so is there a certain point where you can choose to go to a technical school instead of regular school?
So after you graduated like 10th grade, it doesn't matter which school, you can go on a, it's called Fachoberschule, like specialize on one area. So one is like for biology, one is for technical and stuff. So it's like kind of all like split up.
And that's after 10th grade, no matter what school you're in?
Yeah, you can just change it. But you can also just stay on the school and finish it and go to the highest degree, which also requires 3 languages. So that's why I'm learning French right now.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Irene from Spain. So, this is Europe. The population in Europe is like 40 million people, and the currency that we use is euro. That's Spain. I live in the capital of Spain, that is Madrid. So the population in Madrid is like 6 million people. Spain is really small, so like you can go like by place, like by car, like sometimes by food, or like by public transportation if you don't know me. We don't use too much like car that they use it here. The weather is like so similar, but like in winter it's not that cold like here. So that's actually different. In Spain we speak 4 different languages. There is Spanish of course, Catalan, there is Galicia. I only know how to speak Spanish. There is 70 cities in Spain, so it's kind of small. The school in Spain is really different here. We have like 4 years in high school, and there are no optional. And after high school, there's junior and senior year. That's optional. So the school in Spain depends on the school. Usually have volleyball, like this, or basketball. If you want to play soccer, you have to go like on the town or like on the city. It's not in the school. That's like a piece of the normal schools in Spain. The Spanish food is like the most famous thing in Spain, I think. It's so different. You have so many kinds of food. Not like here, I feel like here it's only from like rice. Yeah, like rice in Spain. That's a famous thing in Spain. The tradition in Spain is the majority is the bullfighting. Depends on the people, you can like it or not. I don't like it. I don't really watch it, but like it depends. The soccer in Spain is really important. It's the most popular sport in Spain, and these are like some famous teams that all the people know. The most famous places in Spain are some of them. That's Madrid. That's where I live. The others I've never been there, but they're like so famous. I think like if you go to Spain, you should go there because they have like so much history. I don't know. I think it's really person in person. Thanks for listening.
So you, I feel like I should have prepared for this part. When you arrived in America, what was the biggest culture shock for you?
The different times. In
Spain, we have dinner at like 11 or like 10, and we usually go out after dinner, and we have lunch at 4, 3:30. So it's so hard for me on Thursday.
So it's almost like 12 hours difference,
Uh,
or at least 6 hours difference.
6 hours, yeah.
Interesting.
Question, you said sports are not in the schools, so is it, you go elsewhere to play sports, are they clubs, groups?
Yeah, they're like clubs and all the towns, so they play like each other. But in the school they don't have.
Okay, so it's a town club. Instead
Yeah.
of a school, it's a town.
Yeah.
Now, do you spend a lot of time in other countries in Europe? Are you,
Yeah. Well, I only go visiting Spain when I'm in Spain. I don't really go like to Europe. I want to, but I don't really go.
Is it easier to speak English to your Brazilian counterpart, or is it easier to speak Portuguese and Spanish with each other? The reason why I asked that, when I was in high school, we had someone from Bolivia and another student from Brazil, and they would talk.
Oh.
They would talk Portuguese and Spanish instead of English.
Well, no.
She doesn't understand me.
Like sometimes if they say like she say something slow or like some words you can sometimes understand, but like no.
So you're better off speaking English then.
Yeah. People understand me when I speak Spanish than me when I speak Portuguese.
I knew it was different, but they could understand each other. But
Yeah, they have like
it's
some
under-
words. Yeah. Some
So
words are
what do you want to do next year?
I'm gonna finish the next year. They have when I come back to Spain, like 1 year more. But I don't really know what I want to do. Like I want to study like some like psychology or like something like that.
How long have you been studying English?
Since I was 7, I think. Yeah.
Everyone speaks very well.
So, last question, is there any food in America that you like?
Oh, Chick-fil-A.
Without doubt. So
Fair enough.
all right, so it's not as good as what you have in Spain, but you did find something.
Yeah, because we don't have that in Spain. Like, we have to study when it comes to something like that.
Thanks for having me. Putting a lot of, this last student,
Yes.
we're putting a lot of pressure on him. Everyone else is speak very, very good job. Putting pressure on.
Okay, so I'm Johannes from Norway. So Norway is a country in Scandinavia, just in the group like Sweden, Finland, and Denmark and Iceland. And it's in Europe with like all the other countries. And we have 5.4 million citizens, which is not a lot. Like I think Ohio has like at least twice. So it's a very small country like population. And our capital is Oslo. We have the currency which is kroners, which is just like $1 is 10 kroners, so it's just down to 10. And about 385,000 square kilometers. That probably doesn't mean anything to you, but I can show you here. So if you put Norway into America, it will look like this. So I think America is about like 30 times bigger. So it is a lot bigger. This is kind of what like Norway is known for, our fjords, just like the sea going into the country, making like long passages, and then on the sides you have like big mountains with very nice waterfalls and stuff like that. And then here's where I live. So I live in Hamar, which is about like an hour from Oslo, the capital. Here's my town, just by a big lake. And there you can see what my city is known for, just like that like little ship there, just a Viking ship. So like the architecture is that it's flipped upside down. So inside, here you can see we have an ice arena. We also hosted the Olympic Games here, and I don't remember which year it was, but we did hold Siemens out here. And then a little about me. So my job in Norway is being a soccer referee, which is actually pretty well paid. If you get a match, you get like maybe $50, $60, which is one match. So that's a very good paid job. And here's my school. School in Norway is kind of the same as America. The one big difference is that we don't have any school, like sports inside school. We don't have any spirit. Like that was like a shock when I got here. Like everyone has exact backpacks for Riverside, T-shirt, hoodies. We don't have anything like that at all. And all the sports, that's other institutions said, it's like
just clubs and local teams. And here's my family. It's my mom, eldest brother, my eldest brother, my dad. There's me as real and my sister. Here's another picture a couple years ago. And what fun things are there to be Norway. So Norway is a very cold country since it's so far up north. So we get a lot of snow. And usually the snow comes in like November and it stays like, it's always just snow throughout like until like February, March. Like the snow never goes away. But here it's like we're going on and off. That's like a big difference. And down in skiing, which is probably the most fun thing to do, because we have very big mountains in Norway. We get a lot of time in the slopes, so there's on the top of the mountain. Also a big thing we do is fishing. So my dad lives by the ocean, so we always go fishing. Here's a picture with some fish. And here's probably my coolest catch. This is one of those like angler fish that like lives at the bottom of the sea. There's me at the top of the mountain with like the fjords. So this is kind of dangerous walk. You can see that like with the edges, it's only like maybe 10 feet apart, so you gotta be careful when you're walking up there. If you fall down, you're pretty much dead. So you gotta be careful. And short about the Norwegian government. So we have what we call a constitutional monarchy, which is basically just the same as you guys have, but we have a royal family. But they don't really have any power, like they can't like, they have some power, but not really anything, and it's more like a symbolic value. So everyone loves the king who's there and the royal family. And the weather in Norway, there you can see the northern lights, which is kind of what Norway is known for. Like you can see them a couple times a year. And the coldest ever recorded in Norway is -58 Fahrenheit. But usually it's around like, throughout the winter it's usually around like 14, 15 Fahrenheit. So it is very cold like compared to here. And the holidays, in Norway we have the same holidays, so it's like a Christian country, so it's based on like Christmas, Easter. We also have like stuff like Halloween. So we have pretty much the same. Now we have our national day, which is the 17th of May, which is like kind of like 4th of July, but like no fireworks. You just like go and celebrate with your friends and dress nice. And the Norwegian food, what Norway is known for is probably the salmon. It's like whenever you guys go to like Giant Eagle or like Sam's Club, when you buy salmon, that's probably going to be Norwegian. So next time you can check it, you might see the Norwegian pie there. And this is like meatballs. You remember our Swedish meatballs, but that's also big in Norway. Thanks for listening.
Okay, Swedish meat. People in Norway or people in Sweden?
It's probably Sweden, but that's like our national dish. It's a little different from the Swedish meatballs.
So I'm semi-jealous because you get to see the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
Right? Like I've been up and twice and haven't seen them.
Oh, yeah.
I know. So like our next goal is Norway.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
you should
go see
go.
them. There's, yeah, really cool.
They are.
We're lucky.
Yeah.
Do you have snow days?
We don't have snow days. Yeah, like probably like so much more snow. Like the snow can go up like all the way over here, like over one night, and still just go to
So
school.
when you're walking in the hall, tell them to stop.
But you have to walk. Like how do you get to school?
So everyone usually just walks or takes bikes. That's like a big difference there. You can see no bikes there, but everyone just bikes in Norway like throughout the whole grades or like walk. Because like in Norway, like it's a small country, so the distances are very much smaller. So it's like it's a walking distance most of it. But a lot of people take like a bus or get.
Well, that's why they don't have snow days.
Yeah.
So you have to walk to school.
Yeah, and we have it like whenever snow comes, like it just comes with power and it just makes it. It's not that many roads, so you gotta.
I'm afraid my question, you have cold days?
No.
Hardy people, very hardy.
We got something up around here. So, how long have you studied English?
I studied since first grade, so you learn all the way through school.
Do you have plans for the next few years?
Yeah, so I'm finishing up one more year of school, and then I'm taking a year off, and then I have a military service, just that's a requirement in Norway. Everyone has to go to the military.
For how long?
You could deny, but like, it's really a requirement. But it's just a 1 year service, so that if a war comes, you could get drafted, and then you have like the basic skills. So that's mostly what it's about.
What was your biggest surprise coming to America?
It is probably like how much you need a car, because like in Norway, everyone has like the buses, the public transport is very good, you can get everywhere, and you can also just, all my friends live in usually walking distance, but like here you would need a car to go to like the gym, the grocery store, like everything. But that's not how it is in Norway, it's very more like more compact.
And how much of Norway is above the Arctic Circle?
I think, I'm not sure. I know it's like 60 degrees latitude all the way to, I remember maybe 71. So if that answers your question.
But it's a good portion of the country.
Yeah, it's very.
Any surprises with food?
We kind of have like the American food, or like I like the food here better. Like it's like Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, all those. They are a lot better. Like Norway isn't a big like food country. No, so this is definitely better.
Any other questions?
Thank you for coming and presenting tonight.
That's all for special reports? Yep. All right. All right, that brings us to old business. There was nothing submitted pre-meeting. Does anybody have any old business?
I don't know if it's old business, maybe ongoing business, so I guess it could go in old business. Just want to make a statement about the NB5 presentation and what we got out of that. So my statement is this: we as the Riverside School Board need to make better decisions to serve the students, teachers, staff, administration, and the taxpayers of this district. Excuse me. We have just spent $25,000 of the taxpayers' money getting no results from NB5. This board just took $25,000 of the taxpayers' money and poured it down a drain. We received very little for that $25,000. When the board interviewed the owner's agents, Ms. Krasinski, you said you were voting to choose NB5 because they said in their presentation they could handle all aspects of the work in-house, and they would tell us what to do. Well, all they did was waste our money. Cleora management said they would get us all together to plan our path forward, focusing on our needs. I voted for Cleora for those reasons. They are a local company. Unlike NB5, although they have an office here, their main offices are in New York and California. Cleora also successfully handled the nearby Shaker Heights Fernway School project and came in under budget. They also walked the Riverside campus, viewing the buildings, and had a good feel for what we were looking to do. NB5's presentation to us was poorly done, ill-advised, and out of touch with what this school district needs. On top of that, the presentation was 3 weeks late and had errors in it. Then, after they had stated in their interview with us that they would handle everything in-house, they proceeded to tell us in their presentation that they would need to hire an outside engineer to study our needs and then give us a report. Really? All NB5 did was repackage information into 5 options using the same information that was used from the failed bond levy. Then NB5 went on to say that we should not present any of these options because none would be accepted by the taxpayers. Again, really? NB5's conclusion was that we should use our own money to start the renovations, then go to the people for the remainder of what we would need to complete the work. That's exactly what I've been saying for a year now. We need to attack this very large project in small pieces. Those small pieces can start with replacing the classroom lighting with LED and installing drop ceilings, installing air conditioning and windows at Riverside, John R., Buckeye, and Melridge, and doing the tuck pointing on the exterior of Riverside and John R. We can plan for the other items as we get going, which could be adding 2 to 4 classrooms to Buckeye and Melridge, and even Riverview and Parkside if we want to, and then building an 8th grade wing at Lamouth to move the 8th grade off campus, as Superintendent Kalis has been saying for some time would be what he would want to do. The new 8th grade wing would give excess space at Riverside and John R. We could also look at building a new bus garage for maintenance, and the existing maintenance garage could be transformed into tech, career, and rooms and classrooms. So it's just an observation, and I really think we have a very large project to handle, and I think we need to start with small steps.
So the other thing that I think comes into play is that there are going to be multiple steps to what we do at Riverside. And they're, because of they're going to have to work around the school year and things like that, they definitely are going to be drawn out over time. And I don't know that that is the forte of ND5. I think that if you want to build a building, you know, from groundbreaking all the way to completion, then I think that's definitely up their alley. But having a low intensity but consistent focus on what needs to happen, I don't think that's your forte.
Yeah, so I think they gave us some options, and now it's up to us to start figuring out those small pieces, right? So how do we want to plan it? How do we get to an end goal? But I agree, I don't think it's taking on one of those options in totality. We got to figure out what those pieces are moving forward.
We definitely need like a menu to select on how we move forward. But I'm still very excited about the prospect of making improvements to the district, especially here at the campus, and ultimately setting Riverside up for the future, so that we have a working environment that is stable for many years to come.
So I just want to add also, it's the amount of money that was mentioned, I think, is probably $100 million too high.
Any other old business? All right, new business. Mr. Heck, I know you have something that you want to bring to the table.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with, one of the more consistent comments concerning the current situation with the schools is that at the elementary level, we are very crowded. And so I just, being on buildings and grounds and what have you, I really am curious as to, what the extent of the crowding is, where it is, and then some of the things that we can do short term to alleviate that. I think that, if ultimately the need is for more space, if things went perfectly, I think we're at least 3 years away. I don't know that things can go perfectly. So my thought was to see what options are available in the near term that allow us to expand educational capacity, space at the elementary level to alleviate that issue as best we can. And I did have a chance to talk to Dr. Kalis actually on the way to the building, or way to the room here. And I know some of the things that I had mentioned in my email have already been addressed, but I did, we just need to have, in my opinion, things we can do, we should do. We don't want to impact the learning that's going on. We don't want to impact the staff and the teachers. And so we just want to ameliorate what we can in the short term, because, even if we decided today what we wanted to do, which we obviously are not in a position to do that today, it would be 3 years before anything would really come online. So that was my point, and I know I kept everybody kind of flat-footed. I did send the email out on Monday, but I'm wondering, Dr. Kalis, if at the March meeting, if we could have kind of an update on where things at. I know from what you said that some things you've already addressed them, and we're okay now.
I think we're almost halfway there answering the question, because I did send out some information to the board, about 2 weeks ago or so, talking about how many classrooms we lost, how many newer classrooms we had. I sent maps, I think, also to the board, if I'm not mistaken. If I didn't, I still have them.
You did.
So, one of the questions that was brought up at the table, I think at the last board meeting, is about our enrollment. And it has been steady over the last couple of years. We just can't predict how that's going to impact the school district next couple of years in terms of the enrollment. Part of the information that I provided the board was also housing starts, or potential housing starts. And you're going to find that there are certain pockets in our district that there's a potential that, this housing market is starting to dip a little bit, where people might start looking at starting to build again. And it's going to impact us. If we were to stay status quo, we'll be all right for the next couple of years, but I can't guarantee that. So to Mr. Hack's point is, we got to look at some options that may be out there for us that may take us into the next couple of years, so we have enough time to figure out a longer solution. I just want to make sure that we keep on concentrating on what this district looks like, not only in the next couple of years, but way out into the future. Sure, we're stable now, but what is it gonna look like in 10, 20, 25 years? I mean, we're looking at plans in the past that have, you know, buildings that were to last us, you know, 75 years again or so. So that's what we gotta kind of keep our eye on, we gotta look at the big picture. But it isn't to say that nothing's gonna happen in the near future, and we gotta be ready for it. The easy solution is modulars, but, you know, modulars are great in terms of comfort, not so great in terms of security. We've already had one request from one of our principals at Buckeye for us to consider another one to put over there. So these are some of the things we have to look at. We have to look at the numbers. Mr. Schlick does a great job in putting together the numbers throughout the summer and looking at what we're going to need in terms of space for kindergarten. We've gotten creative over the last couple of years. We've moved some of our units to other buildings that have space. For instance, preschool, we've moved preschool since it pulls from the entire district, not just in elementary neighborhood areas, to a central location at Hale Road. But we're close to being at capacity. I mean, there's a couple little pockets here and there, but we don't have a lot of flexibility right now.
Is that something that we can look at buildings and grounds and explore all those nuances further? Because that is buildings.
Right, absolutely, absolutely.
I think that would be a good place for us to start.
And kind of post-COVID right now, it's going to be interesting to see what the trend does again. Because we did have that bubble, you know, where I think people had held kids back. They brought kids back, and then we had that explosion in kindergarten. So it'll be interesting to see if the numbers stay where they are now.
Right, and we all know that enrollment's not a science, right? It's a guess at best, and the guesses can be wildly off.
And kindergarten's the hardest one.
Right, right.
I
But
could say the last few enrollment studies that have been done, they haven't been all that accurate. Both ways.
So the one thing, and on the spreadsheet I sent out, and I copied everybody on the board as well, if we can get enrollment numbers for past years and break down between total enrollment and K through 5, I think that would be helpful on just understanding what we've experienced, knowing that really is no indicator for the future, but it just kind of gives us a sense of where things are at. But what prompted me to do this outside of buildings and grounds was when we had the NV5 presentation, and there was a lot of concern about the lack of space at the elementary level. It just, we are 3 years away at best, and likely longer. And so I just didn't want that to be something that was that we didn't address. We just, we do the best we can, and I know obviously steps have been taken already, but if our enrollment does bump up and we don't have the brick and mortar in place, we need to have some ideas on how we would address it. Yeah, short-term ideas.
Yeah, and I agree. My concern with the space is longer term, so I agree. Short term is, but kids learning in modules is not the same as a kid learning in a classroom. Convenience, modules don't have restrooms, I'm assuming, so they have to run. Yeah, so I just think there's so much short term, I think we have to do what we have to
Kids
do,
love
right?
it because they have air conditioning. And you really do.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, but that was the intent with that, but I think we just need to have the discussion. The other, if there are any other questions on that, then the other thing, as well. So the State Board of Education passed a resolution basically supporting the Ohio Attorney General to speak out against the Biden administration's proposed changes to Title IX. And what basically it does is the changes to Title IX would create the environment where we would you would have potentially biological boys and biological girls on the same teams and utilizing the same bathrooms. And while I do respect everybody's right to live their life as they wish, I do think that there are boundaries on individual rights that should not be violated. And so I definitely support what the State Board of the State Board of Education did. And so what I have done is I've taken several elements from that resolution that the State Board of Education actually passed. And then I modified it to make it more relevant to Riverside. And I'd like to propose that we look at it. But I did draft the language, which mostly was a cut and paste from what the state board passed. But I did make some modifications in the later paragraphs, and I did run that past Mr. McIntyre for his input, and I did send that out as well. He just made some changes in how we refer to the board using local board of education and things like that. So that is what I wanted to bring to the attention of the board, and at this point, I would make a motion to approve this resolution.
Can there be a little bit of discussion? Can I have a question?
Sure. If we could have a discussion now, or we could propose it and then have discussion.
Oh, well, no, that's fine. What I'm going to say doesn't have anything with what you wrote, so.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'd make a motion to pass the resolution as I have presented it, and to pass it and to move forward with the requirements that are inside it. And just to be more clear, the last paragraph does talk about what we'd like to, if we pass this, what it says is that the superintendent would send a copy of the resolution to the Ohio Attorney General, the President of the Ohio State Senate, the Speaker of the House, Ohio House, and the Ohio Superintendent of Public Instruction, which is in essence the superintendent for the Ohio Department of Education. But is there a
Mr.
second?
Paco, I'm sorry, Mr. Paco, should the motion be to add the resolution to the agenda tonight?
Yeah, I think to be consistent, we should first do the motion to amend the agenda to add this.
Okay.
And then if that's approved, then we can.
Where it goes on, we can have the discussion underneath that
Everybody
section.
also, I mean, just to make it clear, we're trying to explain what it is. We could have read it by this time, and I think it might not be a bad idea just to read it so people understand what it says.
Sure, and let me do that. So, resolution to support the Ohio State Board of Education's resolution to oppose the proposed changes to Title IX and to affirm parental rights and local control of Ohio K-12 education. Whereas the Riverside Local School District Board of Education's sacred oath of office is to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and whereas Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 was enacted into law based on the Declaration of Independence's promises of equal rights to ensure that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Further, original and existing Title IX regulations acknowledge physiological differences between male and female, and resolve that the Riverside Board of Education declares its emphatic support for parental rights regarding their children's education for Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 as currently enacted, and for the Ohio State Board of Education's resolution to oppose the proposed regulatory changes released by the U.S. Department of Education on July 12, 2022, and be it further resolved that the Riverside Local School District Board of Education supports the efforts of the Ohio Attorney General in safeguarding federal nutritional assistance for students in need, which may be in jeopardy due to new Department of Agricultural rules, and be it further resolved that the Riverside Local School District Board of Education calls upon the General Assembly to resist federal executive branch attempts to undermine the original intent of Title IX. The Riverside Local School District Board of Education urges the General Assembly to safeguard the inviolable rights of parents, the innocence of children, the rights, privacy, safety, and opportunities of women and girls in schools and athletics, and local control of school districts as defined by Chapter 3313 of the Ohio Revised Code. And be it further resolved that the Riverside Local School District Board of Education directs the Riverside Local Schools Superintendent to send a copy of this resolution to the Ohio Attorney General, the President of the Ohio State Senate, the Speaker of the Ohio House, and to the Ohio Superintendent of Public Instruction.
So, there are 22, including Ohio's state attorney generals, who are now pursuing legal they're going through legal means opposing the rule put out, and I think, at least from my standpoint, it was done wrong. Like, the mandate was put out, it's not right. I'm in favor of this. Like, I just think that there are so many nuances that they're trying to force. It's just the wrong way to do it. And withholding, you know, food, USDA funds, and, you know, taking away some local control. I think that's the whole reason that boards of education are in place, is to have some local control, and so I would agree. That's just my opinion, so.
And so what, right along with all of that, what maybe not, everyone here might not know exactly what Title IX was, and some of it's in here, but it's not fully explained, so I was just asking if maybe you could go back and say, why did they create Title IX, and what are we doing here to protect that?
Sure. So Title IX, in a nutshell, as I understand it, and there may be people in the room who understand it better than I do, but prior to 1972, it was very lopsided in the number of sports that were for men versus the number of sports that were for women. And so Title IX was a change to regulatory policy, basically saying if you receive federal funding, you have to have parity between sports for the various sexes.
Right, so if you have a boys' basketball, you have to have a girls' basketball. And
Well,
Not necessarily, it's
Well,
equal number of.
right, kind of in a sense, and so what it was to protect girls, right?
It was to provide opportunity for
Upper level
women. Yeah.
opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, and it was up the level of opportunity, and it also created the environment where you know, in college, the collegiate level, there are a lot of scholarships for males, there weren't so many for females, and so this created an environment where there was parity, not necessarily by sport, but by number of sports and number of recipients of athletic scholarships and things like that.
So what you're doing here is trying to protect that.
Correct.
Mr. Hoff, you want to make a motion? I think your
I
motion
would make a
was
motion to modify, to amend the agenda to include this resolution.
Are we going to include this somewhere specific? Is it going to stand on its own?
Say again, please.
Should it stand on its own? I think this should stand on its own. It doesn't really belong in any of our other sections of the agenda, so I.
So I make a motion to amend the agenda to include this at the end after the buildings and grounds portion of the consent agenda. And is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crossan.
Any other discussion? Mr. Placco, can you call the roll?
Lori Knudski,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. I think that was the end of our new business tonight, correct? All right, that brings us to our Board of Education Committee and Liaison reports. First one being Superintendent's Business Advisory. So the Business Advisory Committee has been meeting and put together a profile of a graduate. Our Business Advisory Council has all provided some input into that, and right now Dr. Bassett is in the process of socializing it, and hopefully here in the near future, you might have him here to present what that portrait of a graduate will look like. So that work is being done. I'm looking forward to seeing what you know, our business members in our community have provided, and seeing what we come out with that. So that would be all from a Business Advisory. Any questions? No? All right, so next is Curriculum and Programming Committee and Alumni Association, Mr. Fishel.
So the curriculum, we have some ongoing items, and looking to, what was brought up in the curriculum meeting was looking to how we can improve the I wouldn't say scores is the end result, improve the academic performance, and which the end result would be scores. But as curriculum director Malacher was stating, that there are a couple teachers, one in particular, that you know, we're all used to writing things down on paper, doing our work in class, right? Well, today with computers, the teacher can actually see what the students are doing in real time. And so there's actually a teacher that is monitoring that and seeing which kids have some difficulty in acting in class, literally, in that same class time, right? And so, you know, there was some discussion about that, maybe a thought and an opportunity of how we might be able to utilize that on a wider scale. And then also, there was some discussion about another teacher that is doing some pretty neat and incredible things. And some just general discussion about things that are ongoing. And would there be anything in particular you would want to mention outside of that?
We just said we reviewed the course of study document a little bit more in depth. So was a little bit better understanding on both Mr. Fischel and Mrs. Hardin's part. And then Dr. Kalis has a slide in his presentation about the partnership with the city. So
Right.
he'll talk about that.
Right, so yeah, very good. And then what we're talking about with the course of study, that'll be something that's being put together and it's not complete yet. So that's part of the ongoing work. And yeah, so some collaboration with the community, and in this case, it's going to be the city of Painesville, right? And so that's going to be shown upcoming. So that's curriculum, and then the Alumni Association has set a date for this year's golf outing, which will be June 17th. It'll be a 1 o'clock shotgun start, and this year it was determined by the alumni group, the Alumni Association, that different than last year, which Harvey and Riverside did it together, this year it'll be just Riverside. So we'll be doing it by ourselves. So that date was set. There's a Hall of Fame dinner in October, and that date is yet to be set, but it's going to be the 7th, 14th, or 21st. But that, we should have information on that in the next meeting. And that was most of it. So that's the update on the alumni. And that's all I have.
Thank you. That brings us to Buildings and Grounds Operations Committee and Legislative Liaison, Mr. Hack.
All right, so we had a Buildings and Grounds meeting on the 13th and covered just some basics. For those who like to keep track of stats, between all the properties, we have 90 acres of yard that needs to be mowed on a weekly basis. So there's a lot of yard work that needs to be done on a regular basis, especially in the summer. There's a process by which people can put in work requests, whether you're a teacher in a classroom or admin or administration or what have you. And so there have been 377 work requests since August. So the maintenance folks have been very busy, and all of them, as I understand it, have been closed as well. So that's good. We talked more about the baseball and the softball fields. For those of you who have watched or been here to several meetings, you know that many of our baseball fields, particularly our varsity baseball field, has issues, and we're bringing in a company called Vesco to do what they can. The challenge we always have with baseball is it's a spring sport. The ground is still wet, so it's very hard to do any significant upgrade to a field when it's wet. But we're going to groom the fields as best we can, put some new infield dirt. We're going to use rollers to hopefully take off the edges and put in warning tracks and roll the fields to smooth them out. A couple months ago, it was probably maybe the December meeting, Mr. Arlesic gave me a tour of the fields. Some of them are in better shape than others. But when we went to the varsity field, I went to center field, which when I was in Little League, I was a center fielder, so I felt very at home there. But when I was there, literally it dips down and you really can't see home plate. I mean, if there was a batter at home plate, you probably see their mid-thigh and up, because there's so much contour. So ultimately, we can't fix that this go around. That's going to have to be incorporated into the overall strategy of how we address the whole site. But we can do some things around the edges that make it more playable and usable for our teams. Those of you who have been following the saga, this is We had quite a long saga with getting the band bleachers into the stadium. So one thing that is rivaling that for the time it takes are the kilns for the new buildings. The new elementary school buildings, they're supposed to come with kilns. Well, by golly, the original kilns that we had ended up being provided to another school because we weren't in a position to take them. But we do have new kilns. They're shipped from Georgia, and we're looking to hook them up in the near future. So hopefully we can then call the new buildings done when the kilns are in place. We were thinking of maybe we could call those the Dr. Jim Keelis Memorial Kilns. But that could be at a future meeting that we decide that. So I did, after the meeting, I went around with Mr. Arlesic just around the exterior of the building and some of the interior as well, just to get kind of a sense. Certainly as we move forward, one of the things we're going to want to consider doing are replacing the windows. The masonry at Riverside, much of it is good, but there definitely is going to be a significant need for tuck pointing and maybe replacing some of the lintels. And so I would say, from a casual observation standpoint, so not official, but Riverside has more challenges from a tuck pointing perspective than John R. John R is a few years newer than Riverside. There's also behind the gym, there's quite a wall, a brick wall, and it definitely has need for tuck pointing. You should also be aware that the brick exterior is a facade, that we do have blocks, cinder blocks that are structural. The bricks are a facade, so it's not a structural issue, but that the brick does protect those blocks as well, and it's obviously improves the aesthetics, so we're going to have to pursue that. Then the next thing, we've already mentioned ND5. We did have their report. The next stop on the train is to bring in an engineer, ultimately to bring in an engineer to take a look at the buildings, to have them they will give us their take on what needs to be done. And I think that, again, we probably need to have some sort of a menu selection, the most prioritized things, and look at money and try to get the biggest bang for the buck. But there's an RFP that NV5 developed on our behalf, and I didn't follow the update today. I know that we've received it, and Mr. McIntyre was going to look at it.
He was reviewing it, so I got a few tweaks to make to it, and I'm going to send it out to the entire board once it's ready, just to see if there's any input or if anything's missing from the school board. So I'll have that to you hopefully at the end of the week, if not Monday.
And then we post it for 2 weeks, and then...
Yes. There's a whole timeline spelled out for that, so it'll be posted in the paper. We'll get qualifications first. If there's any firms that are not qualified, we'll eliminate them, and then over the meeting, we'll ask for a proposal and with pricing, and see what that looks like.
So do you think you'll be able to send that out to all 5 board members and have all 5 board members collaborate on that without a formal meeting?
That's where the tricky part is. Just if there's any input, you have to provide it directly to me, and we can't.
So
really
technically, we're not really supposed to do that. We should have a meeting, right? Because of the sunshine law.
If there's a need to discuss it.
Yeah.
So if everything's fine as it is, then we're okay. But if there's a need to go into more further discussion.
So, and then the other thing that we had talked about is on March 27th, which I think is a Monday, that we would have a time for those potential bidders on the RFP to walk the various buildings. Is that still part of the?
Yes.
Is that still the timing?
Yes.
Okay. So that's in play as well. And then ultimately, if everything goes as planned, on or about April 11th, we would then be able to select the proper bidder, or declare the bid, or award the bid, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So with that, Mrs. Grassi, anything I missed?
Nope, you covered it.
All right. Say again?
It was a busy meeting.
It was a busy meeting. Thank you.
That brings us to Policy Committee, Booster Organization Liaison, Mrs. Harden.
We've not had a policy committee meeting since the last one. As far as boosters, the biggest thing coming up is Saturday, April 18th at noon is the community egg hunt. that all of the parent groups are working on together. I know they were trying to build it in with Meet the Teams at one point, but that did not work out just based on the sports schedules for everybody. So it'll just be a traditional community icon, and hopefully we'll get lots of people there and keep the tradition going that we started. What day?
The policies were just released, and be prepared.
Okay,
So
good.
they'll come to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Well, soon in meeting, sometime in March.
Well,
No rush.
we'll do our first round with Neola first in March, so we'll probably have a policy meeting.
Right.
Sounds good.
What day did you say day is?
Saturday, April 18th. 8th, I'm sorry, I can't read my own handwriting. 8th at noon.
Ms. Harden, here you go.
Thank you. Well, that's the day before Easter.
All right, so that'll bring us to our superintendent's report, which I assume that's what's coming down the.
Yes. Everybody's been asking about the calendar. I'd like to bring it to the board for a vote in March, and I wanted the board to take a look at it, if you as well. So, the teachers start on Monday, August 21st. Students will start on Thursday, August 24th, which is pretty typical of what we've been doing the last few years. September, the 4th is Labor Day. October 23rd, we have the 13th off for NEOEA Day. And then in November, we have professional development days on the 6th and 7th. And the 7th happens to be Election Day. We like having professional development on that day because it just keeps, with all the traffic in and out of Lemook and over at the field house, it's just, you don't have to get security there or anything else. We have voting and the kids could be home that day. In December, we have the 2 weeks off for winter break. We would come back on January 3rd. And then the 15th is Martin Luther King Day. That will be off. Also, we have professional development in February on the 12th and 13th. President's Day is the 19th. And in March, again, we have our spring break, the last full week in March. And this coming year, Good Friday actually falls on that Friday, the 29th. So we have that week off, and then on April 24th, we have April 1st is Holy Monday. That will be off as well for the students. May 24th, the Memorial Day is on the 27th, and the last day of school for students will be on May 31st. Teachers will report June 3rd, and they have a comp day on June 4th.
Do you know what day graduation you're thinking is going to be then?
Don't know yet. Question.
I've also sent this to the RLEA and also OC, take a look at it. So. Yeah. We mentioned this before, but I wanted to make sure everyone understands that we've received a total of $400,000 from the state of Ohio for a K-12 school safety grant program. Originally, it was a $200,000 grant that we were informed we were going to receive in August, and then on February 2nd, we received notice that we were going to receive double. And that was a grant that we applied for the existing schools that we have, not the new ones, but the ones that are Buckeye, Melridge, Lemook, and Riverside. And out of this $400,000, $100,000 can be earmarked to improve security protocols. For us, we are going to seek to fortify our security entrances in each of those buildings. Again, Parkside and Riverview are only eligible for the grant because they're new. We're hoping that we can start construction this summer. We have some renderings for our web design right now for those. One of the questions that we're thinking about was, okay, if say an entranceway at Melridge doesn't cost $100,000, what do we do with that extra money? It actually has to go for some type of safety protocol in each of those buildings. It can't be taken and moved to another building. And we can always find use for that money when we get the security anyway. It's going to be more, got some more than $100,000 to do the high school here, but that's how it has to work. Each school receives full amount of funding. We've been in discussion with the city of Painesville for a partnership. We're trying to develop some relationships and provide opportunities for our students through Painesville in the area. One of our city manager is Doug Lewis in the city, and he is also a member of our Business Advisory Council. He's very much a supporter of our school and our initiatives. And Dr. Malacher did a lot of footwork on this, trying to build a relationship with the city, again, to provide opportunities for our students. And something has gotten off the ground here that I wanted to share with the board. We have a program it's kind of in its infancy, a 12-week program this year, where the students are going to be exposed to different types of departments in city government, things like parks and recreation, administrative work in the city, road work. And for the first 5 weeks or so, they're going to be going into all these different departments to see if there's something that interests them. And then the last 7 weeks, they're going to pick something that they like, and they're going to have a more concentrated experience in that area. Again, we're starting this off only with a 12-week program, but it is our hope that next year is going to be for the entire year. And these are students from our career-based intervention class that will be participating. And I don't know if you want to add anything, Dr. Malacher, but now's the time to do that.
Speak up.
Here.
No, it's very exciting. It's something that's brand new. We're the first ones to do it with the city of Painesville, so it's just a really cool opportunity for our kids. We had 2 days of orientation that we went with the kids, and all the different departments came in and talked about what they did. I was amazed. The adults that were there, but myself, Dr. Bassich, and Mr. Miller, who's the teacher, were amazed at what goes on in city government, so to speak. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. Our kids are learning about jobs and opportunities that are out there, but the city of Painesville is also getting a chance to show kids what they have to offer. So if you want to stay here, there's an opportunity, stay in this area, in Lake County, live in this area. After you graduate, these are jobs and careers that are available. So it's really exciting.
It's like most kids understand maybe police work and fire work. I mean, we have SROs here, and students always talk to our deputies. But you don't get a lot of exposure to things like road work, parks and recreation necessarily, or administrative work in the city government. So I think it's kind of a unique program that serves our kids very well.
And then very innovative.
We have a winter sports update. I put this in here. I know in the last month we had our athletic director, Mr. Boris, here talking about a couple of things that have transpired since he was here. The RHS boys and girls basketball teams are WRC champs. We were in football as well, and gymnastics. I mean, we've really been running the gamut on our counterparts in Western Reserve Conference. I like that. It's nice. The girls are also sectional champs after beating North Canton Hoover on February 16th, but they lost a tough game this past Tuesday against Walsh Jesuit. So their season is over, but they had a very successful season. The boys hosted Twinsburg last night. I guess they were down most of the game, came back with their win, and they'll play the sectional finals on Saturday at Dover. We want to congratulate our teams. We have some more. Boys and girls swimming and diving participated in the districts at CSU on February 16th and the 18th. And there were a lot of school records that were broken, including, and I want to mention the students, Sam Smith in the 100-meter freestyle, Kyle Lanning, Maya Jarris, Manny Toss, and Sam Smith in the 200-meter freestyle, Matt Rebar in the 100-meter backstroke, Kylie Lanning, Maya Jarris, Manny Fleischer, and Sam Smith in the 400 free relay team. And we're also proud to announce that our returning state champion, Julia Hickson, will once again compete in the state swim meet tomorrow in the 50 para freestyle and the 100-meter para backstroke. This young lady already has a couple banners hanging from the rafters in the field house, and hopefully she can bring home a couple more. The Riverside Gymnastics team are WRC champs as well. Coach Jessica Ayers was named WRC Coach of the Year. Catherine Siradke was named WRC Gymnast of the Year. Gymnast Madison Toss, Ellis-Dean, and Allison Irvis will compete in the districts this weekend. Wrestling sectionals will also begin on Saturday at Euclid High School. Riverside has 14 wrestlers competing. And I think they were second in the WRC, if I'm not mistaken, or currently in second place. The wrestling team.
Well, I think it was really exciting to add too that not only did in basketball, actually JV, freshman, and varsity, all of WRC, it wasn't even just varsity, that
Yeah, great for
every single level won it.
Last year we had an undefeated season too, with the younger kids.
The current freshmen were undefeated for the last 2 years until this year. But undefeated in the WRC.
What's that?
Undefeated in the
Yeah.
WRC for the last 3 years. Yep.
I don't know if the board knows, Madison's leaving the conference, we mentioned this before, so they're gonna be out. Anyway, we have the Lake County Spelling Bee that occurred, well, maybe about a week and a half ago. Was it?
February 1st.
Yeah, February 1st or more than a couple of weeks. I was the actually remember the date, but anyway, we had our fourth grader, Laramar Shetra, was the student representing us. She didn't win it, but she competed hard. She did a nice job. And because she's in fourth grade, and this is a 4th through 8th grade competition, we're looking for a bright future for her. She competed against 10 other students from Lake County schools. I believe the student that won was a student from Menor this year. A couple things coming up. We have a spring musical. For those seniors that live in our district that would like to go to the Senior Citizen Appreciation Night, it's going to be on March 9th, which is a Thursday. I believe it's a 5 o'clock start for them. They can be, they'll be treated to a dinner and a show, and it's a great time for anyone to come down, especially if it's warm weather, nice weather, we get a big crowd. The kids kind of warm up with that first performance. And the title this year, musical this year, is The Addams Family. You can get a little start by just going through the hallways after school. The kids are in the hallways and in the auditorium practicing. Also, as mentioned earlier, we had the Easter egg hunt. The Riverside PTA's annual community Easter egg hunt will be on Saturday, April 8th at noon at the Riverside campus. This will not be canceled if there's rain or snow. It's rain, snow, or sunshine. It's going to happen. It's for kids pre-K through 5th grade. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Great. That brings us to Finance and Audit and Personnel Committee and Strategic Plan Liaison, Mrs. Grassi.
So we had a Finance and Personnel meeting on February 16th. We started with personnel updates, and we have some retirees on our agenda for this meeting. We are starting to advertise and look for summer employees and summer help. So that's ongoing with all the departments. We are going to bring the administrative handbook to the committee, which you're going to email to us, correct, at some point. We're going to start looking at some changes that need to be made to that handbook and then bring that to the board probably sometime in summer, I think. We have some administrative contract renewals, again, that we review that list of contract renewals. We'll be looking at those in March, and those have to be on the board agenda in April, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to be doing that in some upcoming meetings. We then moved on to finance and talked about the time and labor software that's being implemented in the district, which will eliminate some hand and manual timekeeping. Hopefully that's, I don't know where you are in the process, but hopefully that's going well. We also had a conversation about companies called Strategic Solutions that we use that module for our state software to review purchase orders, and we're going to be moving to that for review of contracts. And some other items, I think Gary can add some information on that if he would like it during his portion. We discussed the items that are on the board agenda. There was some conversation about adding some makerspace to Lamouth, but we haven't really talked about that all too much in the committee. It was just brought to our attention that that's a possibility.
I'm sorry, which makerspace?
Makerspace, innovative printers and tech space and collaboration space for kids. Did I do a good job on that?
You did
Did
a
I?
nice job on that. And then I wanted to say whether or not I wanted to do anything until they talked to Melissa.
So there was that. And then the financial state of the schools have now been completed in all the communities that we serve. Leroy was the last one, and I think Mrs. Krasinski had gone to that, as well as Mr. Platko. And we probably will not be looking to do that again until after the 5-year forecast is done, which won't be now until May. I think that was it. Did I cover everything? I think I covered it all. I have nothing else. I don't have anything on the strategic plan. I don't have anything on the strategic plan.
Our plan is to have an update at the March meeting.
Okay.
It's like more than just a few lines on the slide.
Okay. That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Placco, treasurer's report.
Okay, tonight we have a unique item on the agenda I wanted to explain real quick. Right after public comment, there's a public hearing regarding the American Rescue Plan. What this is, school districts received funding through the 3 different stimulus packages that happened during COVID, and the American Rescue Plan was the third and last one. We have some grants that we received. It's called American Rescue Plan, IDEA Part B Special Education, IDEA Early Childhood Special Education, and then we get some homeless funding as well. And so when the funds originally came out, we had to do one of these public hearings. We had to solicit public input, and at the time we had decided that we were going to try to use like the IDEA funds towards purchases of special needs buses, but we had to look into what those requirements are, and and there's with anything with federal funding, nothing's ever just simple. There's a lot of requirements and making sure we cover all our bases. But due to the timelines for purchasing a bus, going out to bid for a bus, purchasing a bus, and actually receiving the bus didn't fit into the grant timelines. It just logistically would not work. So we're revising our grant application. We're going to use for IDEA related salaries and benefits that we normally use our typical funds for, just to get those funds spent because they expire on September 30th of this year. But because we changed directions, we have to solicit that input again. So we have to have this public hearing, just if there's any input from the community, they can give us that, and this document that we give the opportunity for the input. So that will occur right after the public comment section during that area. Other than that, not a whole lot that Mrs. Grassi already covered most things. She mentioned strategic solutions we're using for our purchase order software. We actually have all of our historical records are scanned and archived in the system, so we can go back to any student record from 1949 until we went electronically over campus. We're looking at, like for employment contracts, one of the joys of being board president is signing all of those employment contracts along with myself. And so we sign hundreds and hundreds of pages of paper each year, and we're looking to do that all electronically going forward. So we're working on implementing that. And I see Jen Hard really shake her head yes for being board president all those years, and how many hours we probably spent signing paper.
Insane amount, yep.
So that'll be very helpful. And also streamlining when we hire an employee, all of their new hire paperwork, instead of having all these different papers they fill out, doing that all electronically as well. And once they put their name and address into the system, they keep writing the same information on 10 or 12 different forms. So that's all underway. Just hoping to get that completed as soon as possible, but these things take time to implement. And then lastly, just monitoring, it's state biennial budget season, and I know the governor came out with his proposal, and kind of how this works is the governor comes out with his proposal, then the House comes out with their proposal sometime between now and April, and the Senate comes out with theirs in May, and there's always differences between the 3 of them. Then they go into conference committee behind closed doors and reconcile those differences, and then sometime right before June 30th, they come out and say, okay, this is what we came to a consensus, and they can be any of the 3, none of the 3, or a combination of all the above, and you just never really know what's going to happen. But based on the governor's proposal, he's continuing to phase in the fair school funding plan, which is under an unofficial 6-year phase-in. And there's also some funding for school resource officers, and we just got simulations today that looks like we're gonna receive maybe like $33,000 or so for school resource officers, which obviously doesn't cover the cost of one, but it's better than no funds. That's just based on the simulation that actually comes up in the law. One of the biggest concerns about the phase on the fair school funding plan is it's based, the new formula is based on the cost of educating a child, and there's, you look at property tax valuations and income levels in each district, and that kind of drives what portion the district pays, what portion the state's going to fund. And Riverside has historically always been a quote-unquote higher wealth area. So the valuations and the income levels are updated to most recent data. The cost side of things is still based on 2018. So if you're going to use 2018 cost figures to fund 2024 and 2025, there's 25 years basing your funding on 7-year-old cost. And as you know, with inflation and everything else that's happened over these few years, there just seems to be a disconnect there. And why you're updating one piece of it and not the other. So there's going to be probably some lobbying to, why don't we use fiscal year 21 or 22 numbers in those calculations instead of 2018 numbers. And also, so then there's House Bill 1, which is quite interesting. And I'm just going to kind of read a couple of highlights of the House Bill 1. And it's because there are changes to the property tax system in this bill. So it would, there's consolidating the state income tax brackets into a single flat income tax rate of 2.75%. There's the elimination of the 10% property tax rollback, and the credit, which is a credit that districts receives when you pay your property taxes. The state's actually reimbursing districts for, you get kind of like a discount, and the state reimburses. They're looking at eliminating that. And then the 2.5% owner occupied credit that applies to those levies would change to just $125 credit as opposed to a percentage. And then it would reduce the property tax assessment rate. So when your property taxes are based on your valuation times 35%, so it's 35% of valuation, looking at reducing it by 10% to 31.5%. So based on some numbers we received from the Alliance for High Quality Education, that just the elimination of the 10% property tax rollback would result in a decrease to school districts of $805 million through the state.
I have a question on that. Is it a decrease in what they're going to give you back? They're not going to give you the money back, but are they going to then roll that back and tell the property owners they have to
That
pay
is the part I'm not 100% sure
Right.
on, so that was my only
I'm
question.
not
I
clear
haven't
on it
figured
yet.
that out yet.
So-
is it truly a loss, or is it a shift back to the individual?
And it's interesting that they do these things and they introduce these laws and whatever, and the general public and populace doesn't even realize that that will affect them to a great degree.
Right. But it's either going to be if this was to actually come to fruition, it's either going to be a big loss of revenue to the school district, which would require us to go back on the ballot sooner for the next levy cycle, or if it's just puts it back on the taxpayer, it's kind of like
It's a
the taxation
substantial amount.
representation, so it's pretty substantial.
So, yeah, and again, it's taxation without appropriate, input from people who actually have to pay the tax. So.
Being that it's House Bill 1, usually that kind of signifies this is a high priority when they, the fair school funding plan was House Bill 1 2 years ago. So it's just interesting what's out there right now. And obviously, it's associated through the whole legislative process, so it may not happen at all, but it's just something to keep an eye on.
They tried to do that once before,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen, but it's something to keep an eye on.
So that's pretty much all I have for tonight. That concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to public comment. So anyone wishing to address the Board of Education will be recognized by the board president. Speakers are requested to identify themselves and their topic. Comments are limited to 3 minutes.
I don't want that.
Any public comment tonight? Yes.
Chris Weiss, Leroy. Did any of you people sit back and after that MD5 presentation and wonder why they could take an 833-page OFC report and boil it down to 12 pages? and come up with numbers that exceed the cost estimates for building the new campus that you guys put on the ballot last year? I'll tell you how, because they didn't do any work, okay? This woman, Orly from NV5, she took enrollment numbers times state amounts of square footage per student, multiplied that out, and then she took numbers that are completely fictitious. For example, she starts at $260 a square foot for renovation costs, goes to $371 to $402 a square foot for new build costs, and comes in with a bus garage for $360 a square foot. Those are fantasy numbers. They're absolutely absurd and ridiculous, okay? Mr. Hack, you talked about, I've heard you say a number of times, you'd like to hire a contractor or professional company so you can sue somebody when they screw up. Well, this is the one you want to sue, okay? Because if they build you $25,000 for this, you need to look at how many hours their employees actually put in here. There is no way there's $25,000 worth of work in here. This is an afternoon working with fictitious numbers to come up with this, okay? For example, in this thing, she talks about a bus garage for $14.4 million. She said to you guys, it'd be 40,000 square feet with 3 bays and a wash rack, okay? That's 0.9 acres of land, okay? Our present bus garage is exactly 7,020 square feet and has 5 bays in it, okay? There's no lifts in there because under the bar joist, the height's about 12.5 feet, okay? I went to the trouble to figure out what it would cost to build a new bus garage. To build a 12,000 square foot structural steel pre-engineered building with the 5 bays that you have, and go ahead and put in the types of lifts you need for buses and all the other equipment, okay, would cost you about $2 million, okay? No more than $2.5 million. To her, $14.4 million. This is absolutely ridiculous. To give you the numbers, okay, there are 82 classrooms in John R. and Riverside. Their average size is 23 feet by 29.6. That's 678 square feet. If you apply $260 a square foot, that comes in at $176,400 per classroom. Times the 82 classrooms, you're at over $14 million. Okay? There's absolutely no way you would need to spend $176,000 per classroom. You need to fire NV5. You need to go hire Scott's people, Cleora Management. Okay? Scott and I did all the work for you. It's right here. Okay? We went to every classroom. There's 5,000 data points and 4,000 pictures of stuff that we did. Okay? All the information is here, and it was here last August.
Any other public comment tonight? Yes, sir.
John Reed of Painesville Township. I just want to say a few things. You know, I talked to a lot of people. I worked in this area for 50 years. And the thing about it is, I want to say, Mr. Fischel, I've talked to so many people, and I've talked about the Riverside School Board. Who do they talk about? They talk about you, sir. And they want to tell you thank you for supporting the students, the parents, and the taxpayers. You consistently talk for them, and I also want to put my thank you in and keep on doing it. I have found out you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. Sir, you are part of the solution, and I thank you for that. And also, we talked about grants. If you know anything about government, you know there's always strings attached to grants. And just like the county, they have the prosecutor's office look at the grants, see what's in them. They check it. They're legal advisor, and it's normally, I don't want to give names out. But anyhow, at all levels. And just like you talked about the Ohio State law, you have to remember there's 3 parts to Ohio State law. First of all, the highest state law is the Ohio Constitution. Then you have the Ohio Revised Code, which is just a codified version. And then you have the administrative code. And then when you look up school board members, and basically you can look up OSBA and all, and COSPA and all this, the definition is to support the community. That's your number 1 priority, is to support the community. And lastly, and just like, in my opinion, all our schools in this country are failing the students in educating. They're too busy trying to do other things, and the curriculum, in my opinion, I got a copy of the curriculum, and I'm going through with former teachers and current teachers and getting their opinions. And the thing about it is, there's some certain subjects on there, and I can talk about that at a later date. And I think our curriculum needs to be corrected and adjusted. No one ever talks about how Riverside, we talk about all these things at Riverside. What about where we rate as far as education goes? Why don't we talk about that? And the thing about it is, and then I'll get into this last thing here, because my 3 minutes is coming up. And the thing about it is, I go to meetings throughout the country. Hundreds I've been to. And a couple of months ago, I was at this meeting, and there was a meeting prior to the regular, and on the agenda it had the Pledge of Allegiance. And I heard a motion made to waive the Pledge of Allegiance, and it was seconded and voted on. That, to me, that's a disgrace to our flag. We don't waive that. Would you take a minute and a half to say the pledge? And there are people tell them, they see that. So, and I'm going to tell them how the vote went and who made the motions. Thank you. Have a great day.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
So I'm Chris Salon. So I try to come to as many of the board meetings as I can to at least bring, talk about my opinions on how things are going in the school district. And really I wasn't planning on talking. I think I've said that every time I come as well, and yet I end up talking. Because, we had the Title IX protection thing that you guys were talking about. The interesting part about that is we're talking about trying to protect women. I do think we're actually doing that in an incredibly condescending manner to try to protect women. And so we're trying to protect this law to protect women. And then we forget that we're supposed to be trying to protect or keep. The job of the school board and school system is to educate in a safe environment. The most discriminated and prejudiced against community in most of known time is the LGBTQ community. So the implication that we had in that little discussion was that LGBTQ people are dangerous. They are to be feared. I know that's probably not what you wanted to come across, but we literally said it. We need to protect women against these people who are dangerous. I think we can do better than that. And I'm not saying whatever the federal government is doing and whatever the Ohio State government is doing and proclamating and whatever they do, I don't really care. But this is a local community and we should protect our own kids, no matter what they're like. And I don't think putting proclamations or whatever we just did with the passing of a motion of some kind is protecting all the kids in the school district. If you think LGBTQ people don't exist, that's not true. They have been here forever. They're part of our community, and they are discriminated against intensely. And motions like this kind of just feed that a little bit more. So I just wanted to get that across. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Please, yes. My name is Paul Robertson. I live in Concord. Just to give a little history, I graduated from college in 1972, so I'm pretty familiar and have seen Title IX go through its process. Maybe you think we should get away from women and men. Let's just say 2 X chromosomes and an XY And if we get away from identity and we separate identity from physiology, there's absolutely different physiology when you have 2 X chromosomes or an XY chromosome. So Bruce Jenner, now Caitlin, won the Olympic decathlon. She now still plays golf. She still has a Y chromosome, and she hits the golf ball 240 yards. She doesn't get to play from the red tees. So when they're trying to define how the sports are played, if you have a Y chromosome, you don't play on a team where everybody else has 2 X chromosomes. And just make it that simple. And as far as the identity, that's a completely separate issue. It's real. The prejudice has been around forever. People always are prejudiced against things that they don't understand. But it's real. So maybe as you're trying to figure out your policies, just look at the genetics, and if it's two X chromosomes or an XY, then it's different sets of rules. Just keep it that simple.
Any other public comment?
Jamie Coulter and Leroy, we're talking about kids' safety. Guys, our kids still won't even use our bathrooms at the high school anymore. When we can figure out how to make sure that our kids feel safe going into a bathroom, whether it be during lunch, in between classes, then we'll talk about something further. But right now, our kids still won't even do that. We said that that problem was solved with all the fighting going on, but it's still there, and I can give you tons of lists of students that still say they go all day, 6+ hours without using a bathroom here. We need to address that first before anything else.
Any other public comment? Thank you. Thank you. All right, that brings us to consent agenda. So the first one on the agenda is financial. Oh, I apologize, thank you. So public hearing for the American Rescue Plan. The Riverside Local School District has been allocated funds through the American Rescue Plan enacted on March 11, 2021. These funds are restricted to IDEA Part B Special Education, IDEA Early Childhood Special Education, and to support homeless children and youth. The purpose of this public hearing is to solicit input from the public on how to use these funds. Any comment made today or received in the future will be considered when utilizing these funds. Any comments? All right, thank you. All right, that brings us to consent agenda. So finance and audit consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the items listed on the finance and audit consent agenda as recommended by the treasurer, items A through H.
A second.
Thank you.
I had one question, but I'm sure it's a minor question that I just don't know about, but the Alpine Valley one, do we know the dates on that?
We usually go every Monday unless it changed. It used to be every Monday that they.
I mean, is this for the rest of the school year, or does this go into the end of the calendar year?
When was it? Usually starts like in December.
Only until the end of the winter season, Scott.
Alpine is a ski resort.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying, here's my thought, like today it was 60-some degrees, and if the ski club is gonna be going there, are they really gonna be going there that much the rest of the year?
I think those funds are actually paid by the students.
Yeah, and it's also, it's just, they should, because the purchase order went over 15,000, the estimate of what it would be, that's why it's on the agenda. It may not be utilized based on
Well, I was just more curious about the time frame, because I'm looking at this weather going.
So just, you know, at least my experience when my kids did it was, is if they couldn't have it that day because of weather, they tried, our advisors tried really hard to find other dates to make sure they had, I want to say it was like, maybe they went 8 times or something like that, and they tried to get other dates. And
They just tried to fill the time
yes.
as best they could.
Yes.
But again, this is students pay for this program, so it's.
But really, I was just interested in the time frame.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
So I would also like to read the lengthy list of donations that we have. There are a lot of them, and they're in memory of Dean Bader, who was a vendor with our school and who did so many wonderful things for our school district. And so they solicited funds for the Lance Corporal David Baker Memorial Fund in his honor. And I would just like to, you know, thank the individuals that donated to that. So we have Fadela Daniel, Mary Newcomb, Art and Lynn Goby, Becky Bartholomew, Fran and Terry Arco, Jerry and Jacqueline Fagan, Randy and Victoria Hall, Deborah Libby, Christine and Bernard Marcotte, I hope I pronounced that right, Marcotte. I'm pronouncing it like an Italian. David and Angela Boyer, Justin Updike, Christopher and Andrea Fox, Tom and Diane Wetzel, Jill and Jim Crowley, Jill Gill, the cosmetic department at Macy's Pittsburgh, and Susan Owen and family. They all donated in memory of Dean Bader. And then we have some additional donations. The Zito family to the Riverside Choir Boosters, Deepwood Foundation to Riverside Choir, Holbrook Sewer and Excavating to Riverside Side, SSC Controls Company to the RAVE program, and Brenda Johnson to the Riverside Lunch Funds. So we had quite a bit of donations that I'd like to make.
We typically don't mention the amounts or anything else, which I'm not going to do, but you have to look at the Zito family did donate,
Yeah.
quite a hefty
Really nice.
donation to the schools.
And they are former parents, they don't have any students here any longer, but they are former parents and choir members, so. Is there any other discussion? All right, well, if not, can you call the roll, Mr. Placco?
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Lori Knessky.
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Motion carried. That brings us to personnel.
Should we have a motion to approve the items listed on the personnel consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, items A through G?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Rick. Is there any discussion on any of these items? All right, can you call the roll?
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Lori Knessky.
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Motion carried. That brings us to curriculum and programming.
So I make a motion to approve the items listed on the curriculum and programming consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, items A and B. Is there any discussion?
I second it.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion?
I would just like to commend our summer latchkey program for putting together an awesome agenda, so.
Very good. Can you call the roll?
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Lori Knessky.
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Motion carried. Buildings and grounds, operations.
Motion to approve the items listed on the buildings and grounds consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, items A and B. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, can you call the roll, please?
Lori Knessky.
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Motion carried. And Mr. Hack, that brings us to the special resolution we added.
Motion to approve resolution to support the Ohio State Board of Education's resolution to oppose the proposed changes to Title IX and to affirm parental rights and local control of Ohio K through 12 education. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All right, can you call the roll, please?
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Lori Knessky.
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Motion carried. Great, that brings us to the Board of Education update. Any updates? I'll let you know, I did have a chance to go visit Parkside on last Friday. I found some time in the calendar and spent some time with Mr. St. Clair. So I got to participate in kindergarten, which was awesome. And just watching the kids go through the greetings and going through like the day of the month or the day of the week and the date and all that stuff, like that whole kind of morning meeting part of the day, process, thank you. It was really interesting to see, and all of them were engaged. What was really interesting is there was a situation, the way it was handled was really cool, is that a kid did something that they said was not in the rules, and they had this discussion about it, and it was really, the kid told what he did wrong, and he was like, I gotta do better the next time, and all the kids kind of encouraged him to do better, so it was just kind of interesting to see how they interacted, and then Mr. St. Clair walked me down to each of the pods to see what the teachers were doing, and kind of see each of the grades, so it was a nice little visit, going back to elementary school, haven't been there in a while, so.
Did it bring back memories?
Yeah, because my son was only there for half a year, because that's the year of COVID that he was in 5th grade, so, it was kind of fun just to, and they're so small. It was, you forget how small they are, but it was a lot of fun going and visiting them, so.
Good deal, terrific.
Any other, all right. I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session at 9:05 p.m. for personnel matters, appointment and/or employment, discipline, compensation, investigation of charges and/or complaints, and negotiations. Can I get a second?
Second.
And
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Lori Knessky.
aye, motion carried.